I'm Leslie. You probably know me from next door. I have a couple things. The first is that I would like to express interest in the addition of more homeowners to the board of directors. Some other things, newsletters, neighborhood watch, social committee, they've all been on the agenda since June, but I haven't seen any action on them. So since they're on the agenda again, I'm looking forward to actually hearing about it this time. And then the other idea that I had for the open position that's coming up at the next annual meeting would be if candidates had to actually answer questions, and I think they do this, but not to the degree I'm thinking about, like, what's the first thing that you would do if you're on the board? Like, what do you feel is most important about being in Brookfield? What do you think the homeowners want, that kind of thing, to get a better sense of the kind of candidates that we have running for the open position?
Thank you. Tweet?
Yeah, I have phone for truck can. Before I received a letter sent me for violation of truck can, but not my truck can. It's in my neighbor next door.
Is this for a specific violation that you received?
Yeah, but
Okay, but we can't talk about that in an owner's forum.
Yeah, I know, but I need to know forum for truck can, because right now, you know, weather, the wind is very strong. Then they blow out in my front yard. Then I received a letter. And I tell you, if sometimes the day have a strong wind, the truck can go out in the house, then you make sure you know that the truck can off the house.
We can talk to you about it afterwards, we just can't talk during the actual meeting.
Wes?
Hi everyone, my name's Wes Rose. It's the first time I've been to one of these meetings. I just want to talk to the board about the problem with the weed violations. I don't feel like it does anything to take value away from our homes. And there are way more houses that they don't mow or edge. There's more important things to focus on than a few weeds in somebody's yard. I think there should be consideration taken when people do put effort into their yard, that you don't need to mess with those people. You need to focus your attention on the people that don't do anything with their yards whatsoever. And I think once that problem is solved, then you can move to other things. But until that's solved, I think you need to lay off of the people that do put a lot of effort into their yard. And they may just have a few weeds. Weeds are a real problem in our neighborhood, obviously. So just focus some of your attention on the people that really need to work on their yards and not mess with people with small problems. That's it.
Yeah. Couple things. First of all, as big as the homeowners association is, 3 members on the board is way too small for the amount of people you're dealing with. You figure that if there's an average of 1.5 people per adults per household, you're going to have a lot of people you're dealing with. All the committees and everything. There's no way 3 people can handle it. You probably would wear yourself out doing that. Secondly, on the weed issue, well, I address the other thing is the board's decision in some areas not to enforce certain board restrictions. A lot of people aren't aware of this, that there's certain restrictions there are instructed the HOA not to enforce as aggressively. I think it's important, like on weeds, to sit here and ascertain to what level you enforce it, if that makes sense. If someone's landscaping your yard beautifully, the problem you have, like the other day, I went to my house, the weeds, this is called solid. Every yard around it is getting populated next door because we're not enforcing mowing and cutting things down. I think that you can instruct the HOA to say, assess the overall condition of the yard and whether, because a dandelion, by the way, a dandelion from the time it flowers to it pops up and disperses, about 24 hours. 24, 48 hours. So you can have weeds pop up in your yard while you're cutting and edging and landscaping. But the thing is, to address the people that are not taking care of the yards, that are letting weeds take over and creating a problem for everybody else. But to decide not to enforce it at all, or decide what, the other thing I'm concerned about not enforcement. This happened in Northtown, it happened in a lot of other things. If you do not enforce the restrictions with the definitive guidelines, you lose the ability to enforce any restrictions. Then we become an unrestricted area, and anyone can do anything in their house they want to. I don't know if that's your intent, to destroy the HOA completely, but then you cannot enforce, you can't tell one person, tell people they don't, it's on the rules here, but you're not going to enforce it. Legally, you can't do that. And it's also subjects the servicing company and the board of directors of being sued by a homeowner. And then you have litigation costs. And
Provide some specifics to what you're saying.
What I'm saying-
A lot of generality.
No, what
Do
I'm.
you know exactly what the board is not doing or doing specifically?
I only have 3 minutes, so it's, we can discuss this in private.
That's fine.
But I'm just saying that you can't figure out, I know specific instances where there's just been decisions that when we're not going to enforce, and we can ask the servicing company directly what they've been told not to enforce and what to enforce. That's real easy to find out. I know that there are some areas that have been told not to enforce it aggressively. So I don't know if this is not a good thing legally. It's not a good thing for the HOA. That's something for the homeowners to decide. We can change it, but adding to the board is important, because I guarantee you, for 1,400 people in all the homes, 3 people is way too small to administer all the committees and make sure they're working. I mean, you got lives, okay? From that standpoint, it makes sense. But there will be, a suit can come from a homeowner against the board and the association, which will cost. My son does litigation, consumer protection litigation, and he worked for a company one time, and they can keep you up to your eyeballs in depositions. When they call you, you have to take off work, you can't choose when to go. It's a nightmare for the board directors. So it's just, like on the weeds, decide what level, go like he said, okay, if they're taking care of the yard, there's dandelions, you don't need to call that. If you have a yard that's like this, and they're not mowing, go after them. Those are the ones you need to go after. Because I think.
Mowing and weeding are 2 separate issues.
Well,
You're kind of crossing them.
what I'm saying is.
You're passing your 3 minutes.
Okay, well, anyway,
We got it.
I can
So
just, there's a way to do
Weed
it.
and expanding the board is what I got from you, right?
Yeah, and enforce the rules. Huh? Okay. By the way,
Iron quorums?
one note, mowing when consistent will reduce the weeds.
Okay, so I'm just gonna add to the voices. We definitely need more board members. But my biggest thing is we need more open communication, because there's so many people that don't know what's going on. And there's little bits coming out, around the neighborhood, and I just think the minutes need to go up, like, within a month. I mean, that's what the PTA does. We can do it. We're bigger than the PTA. And also we need committees, because I would love to be more involved, more social stuff, more, that would be fun. And the neighborhood watch, definitely want that up. And then the other thing is, the playground next to the pool needs some repairs and lights. It needs repairs. There's like, the little thing you grab hold and you slide, it is bowing under kids, and it's cracked. So I think somebody's gonna get hurt.
Rob?
I'm Rob. I want to second the weed enforcement. I think it needs to go down. What you're referring to in terms of grass and weeds is vastly different. You really have to study the documents. There's literally nothing in the documents that prevents weeds from growing. That's not something that's actually been addressed in the documents. It's something that's been decided by the board and passed through the company. But if you were to bring a lawsuit, if I was looking at weeds, and I brought a lawsuit against the HOA, I'm sure I could win, because there's literally nothing that says you can't have weeds.
Well, I agree with that. That's just.
So the enforcement of the weeds becomes difficult situation for them because they don't have an enforceable guideline. So it's really up in the air. I do agree that people should be mowing their yards, and that's something that they can continue to work with to get people fined, but we also own these homes, and we don't want to feel like we're members of the coal mine company paying for food at the general store. So we should be able to, live and mow at a reasonable pace. Some people get out of hand, and those, when you're at this, then that's a thing too. But again, mowing is difficult because there's literally no actual height requirement anywhere in the guidelines as to what it is. So again, they're making judgment calls and passing it through the management company, who is oftentimes going out and doing drive-bys and making decisions on behalf of the board. They're making decisions, and the board is retroactively approving them when it should be the other way around. And that's because you kept saying the HOA, some of these people were saying the HOA should do this. That's the management company that the HOA is hired. These people right here, they're the HOA board. Us here, we're the HOA. The people that do the work, who do the drive-bys, the maintenance crews you see, those are subcontracting companies. They have no power. They must do what we say. They have to do what they say. They're in charge of those people. They're not in charge of us. If we don't like them, they should fire them, and we should all vote to fire them if we don't agree with how they're doing things, especially when they're going around handing out violations that later on the board has to go, oh wait, that really should have gone through us first. And I think that's a big problem. I agree that there needs to be more communication. Right now, a lot of people are getting things through Nextdoor and Facebook, and those are apps. And not everybody has those apps, and not everybody wants those apps. There needs to be a clear American form of communication, like letters, or building some boards at every, cross-section so people can go up and see events, and there can be clear communication. Not everybody needs to be digitally connected. Shouldn't be a requirement. So the communication needs to be a lot more vast, and it needs to be in a way that everybody has access to, not just a small minority of the people. Now, as far as selective enforcement is concerned, selective enforcement is not picking and choosing which rules you're going to enforce. The way selective enforcement is built into the law, it has to do with, I don't like you, so I'm going to make sure that you get fines for weeds, but I like you, so you're not going to get fines for weeds.
So picking and choosing how you're going to.
Picking and choosing who you're going to do things. And the last thing I want to talk about is just parking, this parking issue. People have been yelling everywhere about not enforcing the parking rule. It's not something that can feasibly be done. First of all, you have to make sure that every person that you're trying to fine for parking is the owner of the car and the owner of the home. We can't find people on the street who don't belong to this HOA, which means you have to go to the DMV, and you have every single time you do a fine, not 2 weeks later if you try to do another one, every single time you do a fine, you've got to go to the DMV, pay out the amount of money it's necessary to find that information, which can be anywhere between $5 and $20 per vehicle, so you're tacking that onto the cost. I ran the numbers. The amount of money you get back in fines is thousands of dollars less than the amount of money it would cost to actually enforce that. And it's just not feasible to try to track down every single car in front of every single house and see if it belongs to the homeowner. Because again, the next time you go to do it, you have to go to the DMV and get those records. You don't know if a father sold his car to his daughter and now it's not his and she doesn't live at the house, but she's just a common person parking on the street. Some of the things that are in the bylaws, the reason that selective enforcement is related to people and not things that they can and can enforce is because there are things that are just literally insurmountable for the board to actually take care of. That's it.
Edward?
Edward Mentor?
My name is Edward Mentor, but I didn't volunteer to talk about anything.
Oh, I think you might have signed them wrong.
No worries.
Marcy?
Can I wait and go last?
Actually, I do have something.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not sure how this came about to be 5:30, but I mean, it takes me about 20 minutes or so to get home. I mean, to get to my house from my job. I mean, 5:30 is kind of inconvenient. I don't know about anybody else here.
I'll just quickly
Excuse me,
answer.
are you recording a video? I don't think you can do that.
Can you tell me if there's a rule against it?
No, you would have to ask my permission to do that.
It's a public forum.
You
right
cannot
now.
do that.
We're in a public.
We're in a public forum, the Open
Like
Meetings
You can
Act.
do that.
Yes, you can,
And we're all
legally,
homeowners.
it's an open meeting.
It doesn't matter, I don't
In
want to be.
Texas,
recorded.
only
It doesn't
one party
matter,
has to
it's a law.
consent.
Okay.
In private session, I think that's, you control that, but in public meetings, you don't.
I'm sorry.
To answer your question, we have very limited space where we can hold this meeting. And unfortunately, the library closes at 7:30, so we only have 2 hours, and we can't really push the meeting any further than that. We won't complete it.
Fully understood, just wanted to say that, I know it, single meeting would be a smaller, or might be a meeting for somebody else.
We completely agree. It's difficult for most of us to get here as well at 5:30. Marcy?
I would just say, anything we can do to improve communication, as Aaron mentioned, such as getting minutes out quickly. It seems like this is the first meeting I've ever been to because I just moved here, but it seems like there's a whole lot of people who would like to come to meetings like this but can't for various reasons. So the minutes are important. It's the one way that the homeowners have of knowing what's going on, and my hope is that we can get them no more than a month after the meeting. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak that has a time for them? Okay, that concludes the homeowners one. I appreciate your comments.
Could you introduce yourselves, maybe? I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Scott Dolan.
Oh, I'm Julianne Long.
Jim Schmidt.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Before we approve them, I want to note that it was discussed in email that Julie had noted that Lori had asked me if I wanted to vote on the board officer positions, and I stated no. It is not correct listed in the minutes saying that I voted because there was no vote placed by me. The minutes also don't include the language from CMA that noting their position of objecting to the selective enforcement of both the parking and the weeding that they've been instructed to do.
It did. You're talking about parking
It's-
violation, not weeding. They didn't say anything about weeding.
They did during the meeting, because we discussed that
That's not
during the
what I
meeting.
have.
Well, it's a good thing somebody's recording it.
Yes.
Then maybe I will make that we include that statement in the meeting minutes for this time.
Okay.
Okay, I move to approve the minutes.
With the correction that I did not vote.
My notes said that you did.
And Julie said Lori asked me if I wanted to vote.
Okay, we can correct that.
Okay. We'll add it to this meeting, minutes. Okay.
I motion to, I motion to vote to ratify the actions taken outside the meeting since the last meeting, in our consult, email votes that took place.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, yeah, I move to motion to approve, I'm sorry, I move to motion to vote to ratify actions taken outside of the meeting since the last meeting. Meaning anything that's come up in between the last meeting and today.
And it's asking that we document these specific.
I think so.
I think that we might need to have an executive discussion on the payment plan options because.
There's no confidential information in that, so there's no reason we can't
Well,
discuss it.
it seems that, payment plans are being approved.
If you want to talk about the specific ones, we can, but I feel like.
Yeah, but I mean, that's my.
Exactly.
I think that we should discuss the payment plan policy in an open meeting, and those specific ones we can discuss after.
That's what
Okay.
it's specific accounts, that's why I'm asking to
Okay.
discuss that. in
Oh,
executive.
you're not talking about this, are you talking about this page?
Yeah, I'm not talking about the general
Oh,
collection.
okay.
So, and then the total, going through the spreadsheet, the total amount of fines and fees approved waived was $56,708.02. And that was on 210 houses.
Okay, can I get the second, please, for approval?
Balance sheets in it. Okay, so So, our current assets right now, balance sheet stays at 581,000, right?
Yeah, minus this.
Minus a 100,000, so it's 481,080. So our current asset subtracting the uncollected assessment is around 481,000.
I would add that 295,000 approximately is what's in the reserve for future, either repairs that come up or unplanned expenses. We currently have 100,000 in uncollected assessments.
I don't think some people in the back there will hear
You're talking
the revenue currently for you.
For
481,000 total assets.
And by uncollected assessments, does that mean homeowners that are not paying their HOA dues, uncollected fines? I know some fines have been waived, but what is that 100,000 that hasn't been collected? What does that
I believe that.
That's just the assessment.
It's just the assessments they have
Which
to
is
pay.
the dues.
Their quarterly fee?
Yeah, the
Okay.
$84, $86.
Okay.
I think as far as the income and expense statement, the only thing that should be of concern is the fact of the unnoticed water leak at the pool. That we've utilized 44% of our water budget and we have no wiggle room.
It's not stopping either.
we could address that with CMA, and they are looking into the irrigation, but they haven't figured out what happened or where it is that's leaking or anything, but we talked to them about it. We budgeted, and this year, just the first couple of months,
Those discussions have been,
through the emails. I send Benji what's going on with the water bills. Why is it so high? And she's responded back, said she checked with irrigation and all that. They're fine, it's working fine, so we're still gonna check on it, because I don't know why the water bill has gone that high.
well, and it could be high too from that water break, because I assure you, the amount of water that was spewing when those pipes froze and broke.
You mean the pool?
Yeah.
It's not the pool though. If you look, if you look at the accounts payable for December and January, I don't think it's in this, but the vast majority of those expenses weren't the full address. It were always the irrigation pipes.
So we're having to check it again. Yeah, that's the only concern when we're looking at this, because the water bill is extremely high.
Have any other questions on?
Actually, I take it back, what I gave you earlier, the 581, that's through the end of January, but through the end of February, it's actually at, total assessment would be around, subtracting 100, it's about 565.
465.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is only taken out. Let me check. This may not have already been taken out.
I don't know how accurate this is.
I think this has already been taken out.
I'm not sure how accurate these uncollected assessments are actually, because
Uncollected assessment still stays the same at 100,000 that have been paid. We have on the reserve 215, 2. Yeah, it's, so yeah, our asset, it's, at the end of February, it's 565,842. And then we have uncollected assessment still at 100,507. So current asset is around 465. Okay, can.
I'm just curious, you
Okay.
said that 44% of the water budget was used. I mean,
For the year.
how much is that?
how much is the water budget?
It was 15,000 in water bills for January.
Okay.
We budget 35,000 for the year, so.
We used half, pretty much almost half.
What was the major cause of it almost happened?
We're looking into it right now, we're thinking it's irrigation. They've come back and told us it's not, but we are still looking at it again.
When you say looking at it, you're having some independent agency look into it? I mean,
No, we had CMA asking the irrigation company.
because it doesn't seem like it's in the irrigation company's best interest to say that they screwed up. I mean, that's like asking a criminal, are you the
Good
one that
idea.
stole it?
Okay.
And could this also be affecting some of our yards?
What do you mean?
My yard's been flooded for 3 months and I can't figure out where the water's coming from,
You could, well, actually,
and along with my neighbors.
you want to send us your address?
Yes.
No,
I-
where she's at, there wouldn't be.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm.
Well, Julian said last night, the sprinkler in our house flooded her yard, so it's
But
possible.
she's on Darjeeling across from by the school, there's no
I'm
comment
actually
that we
further
water.
than
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, there's no comment.
So if anybody see anything that's like leaking or there's a lot of water somewhere, let us know, because I
I
think.
have a question. Is there a spigot that someone can access? Because there was conversation on next door about water being stolen.
I don't think so, they're underground, like, the
Oh, okay.
sprinkler stuff is all underground.
Well, there is one, I shut one off at the pool,
At the
there's
pool?
an on-off, there's a
Oh, that.
outside, yeah.
In this case, I don't think that's what it was, because we're seeing like thousands of, like,
Thousands of
like
gallons.
hundreds of thousands of gallons of water at different, at different meters in the neighborhood. So and the weird thing is the irrigation company supposedly reduces the amount of time that we water in the summer to 35%. I'm sorry, in the winter to 35% of what we normally do. So there's no real explanation for it, but they're looking into it.
Okay, all right.
I would reach out to Northtown Mud too, because they're having an issue, an independent study done, because they're losing water too.
Yeah, CMA, I stopped, when I was stopping here with the package today, they said that they didn't come but they would do it, they would check with them again, because we thought it might have been something that land care could address, but they don't have an explanation for it.
Can the water be turned off? Is that not possible?
Yeah, I mean, we can turn off the sprinkler systems entirely, and if there's still water connected to the dam, it's obviously a problem.
I mean, I'm just, if there's a leak somewhere, so the water's just not running, one, wasting money resources, but also wasting a natural resource, if it's something that could be shut off,
Technically, it's not needed right now.
it's what?
It's not needed right now. the water utility.
I mean, I'm just thinking if you're telling us we've almost wasted half of our water reserve, then shutting it off to me would,
Yeah, we'll definitely have more conversations with people in the air, and then we'll let us know, even if it is operating as intended, it needs to be changed, because there's no reason we should be using literally hundreds of thousands of gallons in January.
Seems like we need to have the watering going on in the winter anyway, that's all it's adequate.
I agree with you, and I actually talked to our representative for land here and voiced my concern about us watering in the winter. And part of it is because what we put new sod at pools, and that unfortunately apparently needs to be watered anyways. I don't know much about landscaping.
Yeah, it's for the perk initially till it sets.
But if the rain falls, yeah.
Do you have any rainfall gauges that will shut it off?
No, I had asked for estimates, and they were talking $15,000 to $20,000, because we would have had to connect to a local, weather port substation to set those up.
These just measure if there's water in them, they don't.
Right, because we're such a large neighborhood with so many different substations.
Okay.
Have you received the February bill?
I'm not sure if we have or not. We don't get a copy of
It would
it.
really be scary if it was another $15,000.
Does the servicing company get that first?
They do.
You might want to check with them and see if they've got it, because you may, if it's another 15,000, we're in trouble. They shut it all down, and you figure out, I mean, you still have, they should probably take meter readings if you shut it off